At 1:14 p.m.
Okay, so I need to put a Bates number in the record. It's for Exhibit 46, and the Bates number here is MNK T1 2694677. And actually, I do have two follow-up questions on this. So, Mr. Gillies, I believe you testified that you were aware of this analysis, but you had never seen this PowerPoint or received this data. Is that accurate?
No. I had not seen this, but, you know, or these types of slides and stuff, but I'm familiar with similar analysis on these heat map type things.
Okay, so you're familiar with the cash transaction heat maps?
No, I'm familiar with heat map. I'm familiar with heat maps. I believe my testimony was that I had seen a cache one on one occasion. Other than that, I'm not familiar with any of these slides. Specifically, I have not seen these slides.
Okay.
Okay.
And the data, though, that's being captured in the slides, for example, the data relating to Kentucky, the data relating to the critical spots, had you been provided with that data?
From other things that I had done, not from this presentation.
And when you say from other things, though, was this from Mallinckrodt, or was this from either other employment or other contexts?
Mallinckrodt.
Okay. So, when you say other things from Mallinckrodt, what do you mean by that?
That means there's other information that I would have learned while employed by Mallinckrodt, that Kentucky was a state that had some issues.
Okay.
But you know, I'd never seen these slides before, so I thought your question was that were you familiar with Kentucky? Yes. I think you've asked me some other states. I don't know if it was part of this one, and some states I am familiar with, some I'm not. But so when I said that I was familiar, I'm familiar with the heat map concept. I may have seen one cache one, but not familiar with any of these slides. And then on page 11, there were some other states that are listed. And we went through those states, and I told you some that I was familiar with and others not.
And when you said you had not seen these slides, I take it that you hadn't seen slides similar to these either. So it's, in other words, I'm trying to understand whether it's you haven't seen this particular version, but you might have seen another version, or you haven't seen this document or one similar to it at all.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
But I am familiar with the heat map concept.
Understood.
Okay, thank you.
So do you know why this presentation was prepared?
I do not.
Okay. Wouldn't you have expected to receive this presentation or one similar to it, given the relevance and importance to the anti-diversion activities?
So,
Objection to form.
I don't know the date of this, so I don't know whether I would have been or not, but I wasn't.
Okay. So I'd like to mark this as exhibit. So this is going to be exhibit 51. And Andrew, I have copies for you as well. So this is a prior exhibit that was used in the deposition of Bill Ratliff. It's exhibit number 30. It bears the base number MNKT1 290601. And this is an email chain, and I'd like to direct your, I'm going to start from the very end email on page 290603.
Okay.
So to provide some context, this is Sunrise Wholesale, who I believe we've referenced previously, and they are, at this time, they are interested in becoming a new account for Mallinckrodt. And so the account manager is Mr. Victor Borelli, and he sends an email to Brenda Rakoff, and essentially asking her, or asking to, indicating that this is going to be a new account. And Brenda responds, Sunrise has sent in 3222 forms. Do you see that email? It's at the top.
So this is the second.
Email. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So could you please read that email into the record? It's relatively short.
So this is from Brenda
Yes.
Rakoff to Victor Borelli, CC Kathy Stewart and Connie Gregory. Tuesday, May 20th, 2008. Subject is Sunrise Wholesale. Victor, Sunrise has sent in 3222 forms this week for C2 products. They are not including a PO with the 222 forms, and this can become confusing. We must have a hard copy PO with the NDC numbers specified. This will eliminate any need for CS to guess which product is being ordered. Please let them know, and they can call me if further explanation is needed. The 222 forms total $195,000. I have put the latest and largest order on hold. It is also waiting to be allocated. It is also waiting to be allocated in parentheses till I hear from you. Were you expecting Sunrise to place such a large order? And do they really want 2,520 bottles of oxycodone HCl 30 mg tabs, USP 100 count each? Please advise as ASAP.
Okay. And then turning to the bottom email on the first page, it's an email from Rhonda Hart to Brenda Rakoff, Victor Borelli, and Connie Gregory. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And this email says that their credit limit is $35,000. If the order is $195,000, it will need approval from upper management before it can be released. I do not see the order out on credit hold as of yet. It will go through the approval process once it hits credit hold. If you need anything else, please let me know. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
So what we have here is Sunrise is a new account, and their initial order is for 2,520 bottles of Oxy 30. And Brenda Rakoff has a question as to whether they really need that volume of Oxy. And Rhonda is noting that I think because of the size of the company and the fact that it's a new customer, their credit limit is $35,000, and the order is $195,000. Is that an accurate description of these emails thus far?
Yes, of those two emails.
Okay. Then the email above that is from Brenda Rakoff to Rhonda Hart, Victor Borelli, Connie Gregory, CCing Susan Marlatt and Kathy Stewart. And do you know who Rhonda Hart is?
I do not.
Okay. Do you know Connie Gregory?
I do not.
What about Brenda Rakoff?
Nope.
Okay. Susan Marlatt?
No.
Kathy Stewart?
I know who she is from my preparation yesterday.
Okay. But you never worked with Kathy?
Correct.
Okay. So the email from Brenda is, I have the order on H3 hold, and it will not be released until Bill Ratliff, Director of Security DEA, has approved. At that time, I will notify Connie and Rhonda in credit. Do you know what an H3 hold is?
I do not.
Okay. Do you know who Bill Ratliff is?
I do.
Okay. Who is he?
He was my predecessor.
Okay. Have you ever spoken to him?
There was a few-day transition when I came on board and Bill was leaving the company.
Okay. So Kathy Stewart then writes in the email above, to further muddy the waters, see Rhonda Hart's comment below. And then Bill writes at the top, his email is to Karen Harper, who you work with, correct?
Correct.
It says, Karen, seems to be a lot of product for the first order, especially in light of new customer status and credit limit. Do you know if they completed the DNB? My understanding is that, well, DNB is a reference to Dun and Bradstreet. Is that
That's
fair?
my understanding.
Okay. What would the Dun and Bradstreet report tell you about this new customer? Why run a Dun and Bradstreet report?
Yeah. So as part of our new customer, we would run the credit report through DNB.
And the credit report simply tells you about the credit worthiness of the business, does it not?
Yes.
So what relevance or what importance does that have with respect to concerns about the size of the order or the risk of diversion?
Objection to form.
So I don't know what else is contained here. I mean, I agree with the words that you read. But the Dun and Bradstreet credit is, one of the steps in the process that we do for new customers.
Okay. But it's fair to say that based on this email chain, there are concerns being expressed by both Mr. Ratliff and Ms. Rakoff regarding the size of the order. Is that fair?
Objection to form.
They're highlighting that, yes.
Okay. So I'd now like to hand you Gillies Exhibit 52. This is another exhibit from the Ratliff deposition. It's Ratliff Exhibit 31. This is another email chain, some of which I think was captured in the previous email chain. But I wanted to note for you the very top email from Karen Harper to Bill Ratliff. Do you see that?
On page 1?
On page 1.
Yes.
Okay, so Karen writes to Bill, I have placed a call to Sue Martlett, credit manager who is also working on our suspicious order monitoring team, to ask her for a better interpretation of the Dun and Bradstreet and gave her my cell number. Rhonda has been dealing with this account and reports to Sue. Rhonda indicated that their DMB results show an extremely small company. Sunrise has a 2-screen informational web page and a contact us email screen. Email address is at yahoo.com, so it doesn't look like a very big company there either. Web page says established in 2003, so that would be 5 years ago. So does this information tell you, well, does this information alleviate any concerns that one might have regarding the size of their initial order?
Objection to form.
So I don't know if this alleviated any of their concerns.
But you would agree that the information that has come into Mallinckrodt thus far, well, strike that. So the current situation, though, is that you have a new customer, Sunrise, that is ordering what has been indicated or identified as a large order. This company is an extremely small company with a 2-screen informational web page and a yahoo.com email address. Is that fair?
That's what's contained in this email.
Okay. Okay, so I'd like to provide you with Gillies Exhibit 53. This is another Ratliff exhibit. This is Ratliff Exhibit 32, and it bears base number MAKT1 290580. So this email chain indicates the results of the Dun & Bradstreet report. And then you see the email from Mr. Ratliff to Karen Harper in the middle of the page?
Which page?
The middle of the very first page, 290580.
Okay.
He says, this should be your decision based on the credit checks. If they are qualified, Karen and I don't need to make the decision. This will become easier as we go. Have a good weekend. And Kathy's email above that is, I interpret Bill's response as we have to wait for Karen to authorize. And this is Bill's response at the top. Sorry for not being more clear. This is a new customer that has clear credit references. The salesman has not raised any issues of substance. Therefore, this should be approved in the normal course of business, not by Karen or me. If I have missed something, please let me know. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so based on these three emails, you have a new customer, Sunrise, that is ordering a large amount of Oxy 30, which I believe we've discussed as a product of heightened interest or heightened concern for DEA. It is a very small company. It's got a $35,000 credit limit, and they're ordering $195,000. It's got a yahoo@yahoo.com email address. It's got 2 web screens, and it was started 5 years ago. Given this information, wouldn't you have concerns about shipping 2,520 bottles of Oxy to this company?
Objection to form.
So I wasn't involved in this through the emails that you read, which were not all the emails on these pages. I don't know what other due diligence they did that came up with the conclusion that Bill said that this isn't for Karen or I, so you guys are good to make the decision. Again, I don't know what I don't know or what they do know, so I'll stick with a consistent theme. I would want to know what other information they may have gathered to come up with the decision they made on this new customer.
And the additional information that you would have wanted to see gathered, well, strike that. What is the additional information that you think would have been helpful for you in terms of evaluating this decision?
Yeah, I would want to know what other due diligence they had undertaken and what the decisions they were making as to the credit limits and such.
Do you think it would have been important to understand who Sunrise's customers were?
Objection to form.
No. For us, it would be more important to know who Sunrise was, because that's our customer.
Well, but sir, if Sunrise is primarily supplying Oxy to pain clinics, would that be relevant information?
Objection to form.
It could be.
Okay, if the primary product or if the only product Sunrise is ordering from Mallinckrodt is Oxy, wouldn't that be relevant information?
Objection to form.
It's certainly information to consider.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. What other products, are they ordering? What other products? Do they have any other manufacturers that they're getting products from? I mean, as a new customer, go through and do the due diligence. I'm sure we verified that they had a valid DEA registration. They're doing the D&B credit report. So those are some of the pieces of information that they're making their decision on. And in this case, I don't know what other information came to any of these parties that worked for Mallinckrodt that made them comfortable to ship the product, because the record's unclear, right? Which is why it's tough for me to speculate on this. So the record's unclear what other information they came up with that led them to release the order. But I'm sure there was something, because they were raising concerns and they were doing their due diligence, and this is what I would have expected from them. Unfortunately, as in some of the other cases, I don't have the complete picture. So based on the emails you read, I would want some additional information. It might be information that they obtained to make that decision.
But you would expect them to gather additional information than what's in the record of these 3 emails. Is that fair?
I would expect that there would be additional information that's not contained in these emails that led them to make the decision to release this order.
Okay.
I'm sorry, did I answer your question? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so for the top email where Bill Ratliff says, sorry for not being more clear. This is a new customer that has clear credit references, and the salesman has not raised any issues of substance. Therefore, this should be approved in the normal course of business, not by Karen or me. If the only thing he is going on, given the size of the order and the nature of the order, is that there are clear credit references and the salesman hasn't raised any issues of substance, that would not be adequate due diligence in your view.
Objection to form.
Well, again, I don't know what other, so, I speculated a few minutes ago that they would have, verified that there was a valid DEA registration in addition to doing the D&B. And so, again, I can't, as I sit here now, look at these emails and tell you what other due diligence steps they took, but I am comfortable saying that they were comfortable that there was no issue at the time they set up this account to release that order.
Well, they were clearly comfortable because they released the order, but with respect to the additional due diligence, the state of the record is they may have done more due diligence or they may not have. Is that fair?
Yeah, the record is unclear to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Bill's email says the salesman has not raised any issues of substance. In your opinion, is it appropriate to rely on the salesman to determine whether or not an order is appropriate to ship?
Objection to form.
So the salesmen are trained, take a step back, the salespersons are trained to assist DEA compliance, who provides them training on things to look for them to be suspicious about as they're looking at new customers. So I guess the answer to your question is not unusual that they would get some feedback from a salesperson.
But that feedback, well, strike that. The fact that the salesman is comfortable shipping the order doesn't end the inquiry, though, correct? That's not an adequate basis. Namely, the salesman thinks it's okay, so we're going to ship. You still need to conduct your due diligence for compliance to satisfy itself that this order is appropriate. Is that correct?
Objection to form.
So we know from this that they did some of the due diligence, but the record's unclear to what extent there was other due diligence that was conducted in opening up this new customer.
And if they elected not to conduct that other due diligence because they were just going to rely on the salesman, that would be improper.
Objection to form.
So that's a hypothetical. They didn't just rely on the salesperson. I mean, they ran the credit report, and I would have to speculate on whether they did some of the other steps. So I'm not going to address the hypothetical because I don't know what the additional information or due diligence that they did, because the record's unclear, but from the wording in this email, Bill had no objections to releasing it. So
Well, but if all he's going on is a clear credit reference and the salesman hasn't raised any issues of substance, that wouldn't provide all of the additional information that is needed to make a thorough evaluation decision. Is that fair?
Objection.
There is additional information that may or may not have been gathered, because the record is unclear on that. But there is additional information that you at least would have wanted in making this decision.
Objection to form. Asked and answered.
because the record's unclear what other steps, I would want some additional information.
This is now going to be Gillis Exhibit 54.
Do you want me to read this, or?
Well, so I'm just,
okay.
my question relates to the very top email from Kathy Stewart to Mr. Ratliff and Ms. Harper that says, FYI, the customer service reps all state, sure. FYI, the customer service reps all state that Victor will tell them anything they want to hear just so he can get the sale. Do you see that?
I see that.
Okay, and Victor is the account manager for this Sunrise account. Do you understand that?
Objection to form.
I'm sorry, I don't know what Victor's role is on this.
Well, if you I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If you look at the back page of this document,
Okay.
the very last email, this is the email from Victor
Okay.
Borelli to Brenda.
Okay.
So he's the account manager for this new account.
Okay.
You see that?
Let me read it real quick.
Sure.
So his email says he's a national account manager, and he's asking Brenda who's going to be the customer service manager for this new account.
Yes.
Is that I understand? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Victor Borelli is a national account manager, so he is one of the people that will be the interface between Mallinckrodt and the customers, in this case Sunrise Wholesale.
Okay.
And the very top email is a reference to Victor.
Okay.
And Kathy Stewart, who is in the I believe in the customer service department, is telling Bill and Karen, FYI, the customer service reps all state that Victor, who is the national account manager for Sunrise, will tell them anything they want to hear just so he can get the sale.
Objection to form.
That's what it says here.
So you have the national account manager, and one of the people presumably that Mr. Ratliff and Ms. Harper are relying on, and they're being told that he will say anything he wants just to get the sale. In light of that, don't you feel, shouldn't some additional due diligence have been done into this customer given the concerns raised about Victor?
Objection to form.
So I don't know what other due diligence was done. In this matter, so I would tell you I would want additional information.
Okay. And would you agree that it is a cause for concern when you have a national account manager that is willing to say anything just so he can get the sale of a controlled substance?
Objection to form.
I don't even know what that reference is or what they're meaning by saying we'll tell them anything. I'm a little unclear on who them is and then what the anything would be, which is why I'd have some follow-up questions.
Well, but I mean, isn't this email indicating that Victor's information is not necessarily reliable, and he's going to say what he needs to say so he can get the sale through? And in this case, the sale is Oxy 30.
Objection to form.
Okay, I don't know that, so I see what's here, and I would ask additional questions to answer the questions that I have as I read this now.
And what are those questions?
As I stated, I want to know who them is. I want to know what anything is and what that means. And then depending on what the answer to those questions are, I may have additional questions based on that. But once again, the record is unclear, but in your question, I can't say that because I don't know what other due diligence they did that made them comfortable with releasing the order to this new customer.
But you would not have just ignored the email, would you?
Objection to form.
I would not have.
So this is Gillies Exhibit 55.
Okay.
Why don't you take a minute to review the emails, Jim? It's not that long.
Okay.
Well, I'm happy to put it on the overhead if that's.
These glasses will work. This is just a little bigger, so. But thank you. Okay.
Okay. So this is an email, and it's dated November 14th, 2008. So it is, I think, 7 months after the previous emails that we saw relating to Sunrise. This is an email regarding Sunrise, and it's indicating that beginning in January, Sunrise is going to increase its monthly sale or its monthly demand for Oxy 30 from 2,500 or 2,520 bottles to 12,000 bottles, and is going to add to that 3,000 bottles of Oxy 15. Do you see that?
I didn't see the increase part in here, so I think I got lost.
Sure. Well, if you look at exhibit,
Okay,
believe
so it's not in this email.
it's not in this
from
email.
a different
Yes,
email.
the
Okay.
prior exhibits we looked
All
at.
right, I thought you were reading from here, and I had missed that, so I couldn't find it. So it's
Okay,
not
fair
in
enough.
this email.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm on the same page with you.
You guys are talking over each other just a bit.
Okay, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
sorry.
That's right.
Okay. I'm sorry, could you repeat your
Sure.
question now?
So, do you recall that the prior exhibits that you reviewed, the initial order from Sunrise was 2,520 bottles of Oxy 30? Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. So in this new email, and those prior emails were all from June of 2008.
Correct.
This new email, which is from November of 2008, indicates that in January of 2009, Sunrise's orders are going to increase from 2,520 bottles to 12,000 bottles. And then they're going to add 3,000 bottles of Oxy 15. Do you see that?
I see that.
So these are significant increases in their ordering, or their, well, strike that. You would agree that these are significant increases in their orders.
Objection to form.
So in the text part of this email on November 14th, it says that their sales have been increasing each month. So I'm not comfortable going with the leap from May or June timeframe where there were 2,520 bottles to say that the next jump would be 12,000. What I have missing here is whether their sales, the number of bottles they were receiving had increased in the previous 6 months. So I see that when they started they had 2,000, and in January they'll have 12,000, but I'm missing information on what those intervening months might look like.
Fair enough.
Just to be fair. Okay.
So, sure. So it starts at 2,520. In January, it's going to be 12,000, but you don't know the rate of increase.
That's right. So that's their projection in January, and in here they said that the sales have been increasing. So I don't know what those intervening months look like.
But nevertheless, the volume that they are now ordering in January of 12,000 bottles of Oxy 30 is a significant quantity, isn't it, sir?
Objection.
Again, I don't know that without knowing that the growth of the business, and so I'm missing that piece to answer your question. So I don't know that it is, depending on the growth of this business.
Well, but to increase from 2,520 to 12,000 over the course of, 9 months. I mean, I understand that you don't know what the rate of increase was and whether it was a smooth increase or whether it was there were ups and downs. But nevertheless, when you look at the two endpoints and the time period, that is still a significant increase, is it not?
Objection to form.
If everything else remained the same, but it said they had brought on new customers, new contracts, and so their business was growing. So,
And to be clear, the person telling them this is Victor Borelli, who was the subject of the prior email raising issues, at least from Kathy Stewart, as to whether he was willing to say anything to get a sale. You recall that?
Objection to form.
I do, and I don't know what Bill and Karen did to resolve the issue on that one. I told you that, I would have wanted more information. I don't know whether they asked and got more information. And here, once again, I'm asking for more information because I do know from what's in here that there's new customers contacts, I may have said contracts earlier, I'm sorry, new customers, contacts, etc. So I would want to know what that all looks like. And I can't say that that's a significant increase because I don't know whether it is or it isn't if their business tripled or quadrupled in that 6-month period.
But you would have taken additional steps, or strike that, you would have gathered additional information regarding this increase, correct?
I would have asked additional questions, yes.
And you would have attempted to verify some of the information in Mr. Borelli's email, would you not?
Objection to form.
Yes.
Okay. So this is now going to be Gillies Exhibit 56. So this is another prior exhibit. It's from Mallinckrodt Ratliff number 35. Bates number is MNKT1 307203. And I'd like to direct your attention to the second to last page, which is 307206.
I'm sorry, do you want me to read that entire page or?
Oh, no, just, I mean, why don't you review the emails to
Oh,
familiarize
okay.
yourself with their content?
Do you want me to keep going or just stick to this page?
Well, why don't you also review the page in front of it, so 307205.
Okay. Okay.
So the very initial email on page Bates number 307207 is an email from Pete Kleisel to Bill Ratliff and Karen Harper. Based on your work in Mallinckrodt, do you know who Pete Kleisel is?
He's with the DEA in St. Louis.
And do you meet or talk to Mr. Kleisel as you're in your current position?
I do not.
Okay. Have you ever communicated with him on behalf of Mallinckrodt?
I do not believe he's in the St. Louis office any longer. And I have no recollection of ever meeting with him.
Okay. So his, I want to direct your attention to the email in the middle of the page on 307-206.
Yes.
And can you read that email into the record? It starts with the DEA diversion group.
Yes. So this is from Bill Ratliff to John Adams, Karen Harper, and Victor Morelli. Pete Kleisel, Oxy investigation. The DEA diversion group supervisor recommended that we audit Sunrise as soon as possible. Please let me know the best way to accomplish this. Please give me a call to discuss.
While working at Mallinckrodt, have you ever received a call from the DEA telling you to audit a customer?
No.
So this is a fairly unusual occurrence, is it not?
Objection to form.
Back then, I don't know whether it was an unusual, but I haven't received any call during my time at Mallinckrodt.
And your time, I mean, spans 7 years. It's from 2012 to 2019, correct, sir?
Yes, June 2002 to the present.
And I take it, had you received a call like that, that would be a cause of concern, would it not?
Objection to form.
I would have spoken to Pete Kleisel and asked what his concerns were, and if he's telling me that I should audit Sunrise, I would have audited Sunrise.
And that audit would have been a relatively thorough one, correct?
Objection to form.
Oh, strike that. That audit would have been a thorough one, correct?
Objection to form.
My audit would have been thorough.
Then if you turn to the next page of 307-205, do you see the middle email from Karen Harper to Bill Ratliff?
Yes.
Okay. And the subject of that is Pete Kleisel, Oxy investigation. Do you see that?
Correct.
Okay, could you read into the record Karen's email? It's not very long.
Bill, I know that we don't want to make this audit, in quotes, a cast of thousands, close quotes, ... and assume the scope of audit review will be at a fairly high security and compliance level, question mark. I don't know anything about the chargeback system, ... which is how we detected which physicians / pain clinics are receiving our product through Sunrise.
Okay. Do you know what she means when she says that the audit will be at a high security and compliance, will be at a fairly high security and compliance level?
I do not.
Okay. Do you know what types of audits Mallinckrodt conducted of its customers during this time period?
I do not.
Okay. Would you agree that it is concerning that physicians and pain clinics are receiving Mallinckrodt products through Sunrise in its distributor capacity?
Objection to form.
Again, I don't know what's going on to let you know whether I would have had a concern outside of what I previously testified to.
Well, as part of the audit of Sunrise, would you have inquired into who Sunrise's customers were? given, you know, the call you just received from the DEA?
So some of what I want to answer here, I learned from my prep yesterday. And in Karen's email, it says she doesn't know anything about the chargeback system, but that's what they used to identify physicians and pain clinics receiving products. So it appears that they did look, or at least have, some of the customers of Sunrise.
Well,
Was that your question? I
well,
thought,
let me rephrase the question
Okay.
then. As part of the audit, well, strike that. I understand from this email that it appears that they have some information about Sunrise's customers, which are physicians and pain clinics, or some of them are physicians and pain clinics. My question is, as part of this audit, wouldn't you have wanted to know, or wouldn't you have wanted to gather information regarding how Sunrise was vetting its customers and what Sunrise was doing to ensure that these physicians and pain clinics were legitimate, essentially legitimate parts of the supply chain as opposed to being pill mills?
Objection to form.
so in this audit, I don't know what they did. If I were to audit, I would ask that question.
Okay, so this is Gillies Exhibit 57. Sorry, there's one more. Thanks. So this is a cover email and an attachment. So this is a cover email. It's from a prior deposition. It's Mr. Ratliff's deposition. It's Exhibit 38. The Bates number is MKT1290041, and it's an email and an attachment. Well, do you know what this document is, sir?
I do not.
Okay. The cover email indicates that this is, or the subject matter, or the subject line indicates that this is a Sunrise chargeback summary. Do you see that, sir?
Yes.
And then if you look at the attachment, it appears to be a list of, I think you would.
Any
I'm
chance
sorry.
you can blow that
Oh,
up?
yeah,
I can't.
sorry.
I can't read it.
Understood. So why don't we go see, hold on. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so these are, I believe you refer to them as indirect registrants. Is that fair?
Objection to form.
These are downstream registrants?
I'm sorry, downstream
Okay.
registrants.
Okay.
Okay? And then do you see the number of orders?
Yes.
And do you see the total quantity and equivalent API?
Yes.
And do you know what is API?
the forget what the A stands for. So
Is it active pharmaceutical?
active pharmaceutical, yeah.
Okay. And so that is, I take it that is a common measure in terms of volume of product?
Objection to form.
So that is what our St. Louis bulk manufacturing, they deal in the API, and Hobart deals in the procurement tablet. So when I see API, I think of our St. Louis facility, and for that volume weight.
Okay. And then if you look at Ms. Stewart's cover email, do you see the bottom paragraph?
Yes.
Okay. So the lowest quantity ordered in milligrams of oxy is 5,400, and the highest is equivalent to 12.6 kilograms of oxy. Okay. And then, do you see the very top email? It says, here's the other file. The doctor in question is in column CX.
I'm sorry, where are you now?
I'm sorry, the very
Okay,
top
there you
email.
go, okay.
Okay. So when
Okay.
you turn to column CX, and I'll put this up. So for the record, the blue markings are mine.
Okay.
But the highlighting is in the document.
Okay.
Okay, so do you see the highlighting? It's CX, and that's Dr. Schultz.
Okay,
Do you recall Mr. Schultz from our previous discussions?
yes.
Okay, and he's currently in prison, correct?
Yes.
That's your understanding. And his volume is 612,000 API. Do you see that?
Can you move over to line 3? Just there
sure.
is nothing on line 3. Okay.
But if you
so-
turn back to the very beginning, so let me flip back to that. The beginning of the spreadsheet, you can see the
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
total quantity in API.
Yeah.
Okay. So as part of your audit, one of the individuals that they were focusing on, or that you would have focused on, would have been Dr. Schultz. Is that accurate?
Objection to form.
So I believe they already focused in on Dr. Schultz from the law enforcement request.
Right. Now, do you see column DB that I've circled?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see the volume for Dr. Smith?
Yes.
So that's going to be 3,974,000 API. Do you see that?
I see that.
Okay. Isn't that someone else you would have focused on due to his volume?
Objection to form.
So I don't know who they focused on. Just like in the other emails, I don't know all the work that they did in due diligence, but if compared to Dr. Schultz, I would have asked some questions about that customer
Okay.
of Sunrise.
And if do you see column CS?
I do.
And that's Dr. Rodriguez. I apologize for the mispronunciation.
That's
but
fine. I know which one you're
It's
referring
Naga.
to. Yes.
Okay, and do you see that? Do you see that volume? It's
Yes.
8,487,000.
Yes.
Would you have focused, or would you have asked questions about that doctor?
Objection to form.
Yeah. So I don't know whether they did or not, but I would.
Okay, and CT1, or column C, I'm sorry, column CT is Dr. Ravensky. He's at 2.6 million. Would you have asked questions about him?
Again, I don't know whether they did, but I would.
Okay. One over, column CU is Dr. Rincon. He's at 3.6 million. Would you have asked questions about Dr. Rincon?
I don't know whether they did, but I would.
Okay. Dr. Shook, who is right next to Dr. Schultz, column CW is at 12.59 million. Would you have asked questions about Dr. Shook?
So I don't know what they did, but I would ask a question.
Okay. And what questions would you have asked about Dr. Shook?
So if these are downstream registrants, I would have asked questions about these customers. Product, what Sunrise knew about their I would have asked questions to see what Sunrise knew about these customers. I would want to see what was in their due diligence files if they were willing to share it with me.
And if they weren't willing to share it with you, wouldn't that have raised concerns in terms of supplying Sunrise with product?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting into hypotheticals here on everything. I would need to know more information. So the reason that, again, I don't know what Bill and the audit team did, but I know that I would want to ask more information to figure out what's going on here.
Okay. So why don't we take a quick 5-minute break?
You're going off the record at 2:16 p.m.